told you, I think you're about to make off without payment, and if I don't arrest you, then you will make off without payment. So there's my grounds.
Well, I'm offering to make
Can you
payment.
come out of the car, please?
Yeah,
sir?
All right, guys, listen up. This one kicks off with instant tension. A man sits in his car at a petrol station, calmly offering payment, while a police officer jumps straight to accusations. The claim? Making off without payment. But here's the problem. He hasn't gone anywhere. He's still on site, still talking, still trying to pay. Now welcome to the breakdown, where we expose misconduct, challenge authority, and demand accountability. This case, brought forward by an independent auditor, starts simple but spirals fast. The fuel's already in the tank, a debt now exists, and the man offers a $100 Royal Mint coin, legal tender. Sounds straightforward, right? Wrong. Instead of understanding the law, the situation escalates. The officer digs in, the tension rises, and what should have been a simple transaction turns into the beginning of a legal disaster.
Okay, so you've done your bit checking on legislation, I've just checked on my legislation. As I said to you, the shop does not have to accept it just because it is legal tender. You said it's legal tender, you are correct, however it is a commemorative coin. On the internet, they're worth about 20 quid.
Well,
right, so here is what is going to happen. Either you are going to pay for your fuel correctly, or you are going to fill out their civil recovery form so that you can arrange to make payment at a later date, or I'm going to arrest you for bilking.
What's bilking?
Bilking, making off without payment. You've got to the point where payment is due, you're now refusing to make payment, therefore I will treat it as a criminal offence. So how would you wish to proceed at this point?
Well, I have got means to pay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not going to fill out a civil recovery form.
Okay, right, so what's the means that
what was the option two?
So option one is either you pay, option two is you fill out the form, option three is that you get arrested.
Well, pay.
No, you pay with legal tender that they will accept.
That is legal tender.
No, they don't have,
But if this is a £50 note and he said, oh look, we don't accept £50 notes because there's lots of forgeries.
Exactly.
Would you be doing exactly the same thing now?
Yes, so if you go into a corner shop and try and pay for a penny chew with a £50 note, they are perfectly within their rights to refuse that sale.
Now things get heated. The officer doubles down, claiming the shop doesn't have to accept the coin. And yes, before a sale, businesses can refuse payment methods. But that's not what's happening here. Listen carefully. The fuel is already dispensed. That means a debt exists. And once a debt exists, offering legal tender settles it. End of story. But the officer doesn't get it, or worse, refuses to get it. Instead, he starts comparing it to shop purchases and $50 notes being refused, completely missing the point. This isn't about preference anymore, it's about law. The auditor stands firm, calmly explaining, while the officer leans on flawed logic. And this is where credibility begins to crack. Because when enforcement ignores the basics, it stops being about justice and starts becoming about
The point is also that coin is not worth the face value of it. It's not legal tender in such a way that this shop has to accept it as being valued at £100.
Okay, so it has. Hang on.
Short of the mark.
No, I'm not. So it is got a face value of £100, so it is worth £100.
It's not.
Well, you say that, but the Bank of England, the House of Commons, the state, all the institutions that came before you say it is, right? But you say it isn't, right? Now you say it's only worth whatever you say it was. Interestingly, I don't know if you've looked at the price of silver, but that's probably worth about £48 in silver. Hang on, I haven't finished yet. So that's £48 in silver.
Yeah.
Whereas, how much is a £20 note or £50 note worth in plastic? What, a penny or two?
All right, now watch this collapse in real time. The officer starts questioning the value of the coin, saying it's only worth its silver content. Seriously? This is where it gets embarrassing. A Royal Mint coin with a $100 face value is legal tender backed by the state, not by someone's opinion on metal prices. The auditor fires back with precision, pointing out the absurdity. Paper notes are worth pennies in material, yet nobody questions them. So why this coin? Because it's unfamiliar? Because it's inconvenient? That's not how the law works. And as the debate continues, the officer's arguments get weaker, more inconsistent, more desperate. Instead of stepping back and reassessing, he pushes forward. And that's the turning point, because now it's no longer a misunderstanding. It's willful ignorance driving.
Check to make sure it's not an unlawful arrest.
Another unit, please. This chap's about to be arrested.
Would be unlawful arrest.
It's not a wrongful arrest.
It would be a wrongful arrest. Well, how can you arrest somebody for refusing to pay when they're offering to pay with a coin of the realm?
Because you're not offering to pay with payment that they can accept or will accept or have to accept. No.
Now, interestingly, you said that you've done some research on this and I've done this before.
Yeah.
Well, what was the outcome of it last time?
It was no further action.
Why was that then?
I don't know.
Well, how come you've
But
got a record
doesn't
of
mean
that?
I'm about to let you drive off from here.
Well, how come you got a record that I did it last time, but you haven't got a record of the outcome?
Why? Because I haven't got time to look at that right now.
But you have got time to arrest me and deal with all the paperwork that'll be involved in that.
Yep.
So that's just abusing your power, I think, because what you're trying to do
It's
is
using my power proportionally. These people here are trying to run a business, and you are making life extremely difficult by being obstructive in how you're going to pay.
Break this down clearly. The accusation is making off without payment. But for that to stick, two things must happen: leaving the premises and intent to avoid paying. Neither exists here. The man hasn't moved. He's openly offering payment. So where's the crime? There isn't one. Yet the officer keeps pushing, even suggesting dishonesty because the man won't give details or use another payment method. That's not how rights work. You don't become dishonest for standing your ground. And the auditor nails it with a perfect analogy: restaurants. Once you've eaten, you owe money. The business can't suddenly refuse valid payment options. That principle is crystal clear. But instead of recognizing it, the officer keeps escalating. And every second that passes, the situation drifts further from law and deeper into
Enforce the law. I'm not here to decide. I just suspect that an offence has taken place. Okay? So I'm not convicting you, and you're refusing, to cooperate with me any further. You're refusing to resolve this situation by giving these people your details. So therefore,
No, I don't, because what you're trying to encourage me to do is not to give them my details, but to fill out a legally binding form. You're actually encouraging me to fill out a legally binding form, right? That would be detrimental to me.
Why? Because you have to pay for your fuel just like everybody else in this petrol station.
No, because you're forcing me not to use cash. It's exactly the same as you.
No, I'm forcing you to provide the legal tender that this business is willing to accept.
But it's not for them to pick and choose.
It is, absolutely.
No, it's not.
If they will only accept payment in Pokemon cards, that is entirely up to them.
Yeah, but they need to state that on the pump, right? When I take the fuel, they need to say payment only in Pokemon. I'm not trying to. What do you think? What do you think I'm trying to achieve then out of this?
So why are you not willing to offer any other sort of payment? Do you have bank cards on you?
Maybe it's a matter of principle. This is a coin of the realm. You shouldn't be threatening to arrest me because of their preference as to what type of note or coin they accept. That's ridiculous.
Now here comes the final build-up, and it's painful to watch. The officer tries to sound informed, quoting the Bank of England about shops choosing payment methods. But again, context matters. That rule applies before a transaction, not after a debt is created. The auditor calls it out instantly. Fuel in the tank means the deal is done. At that point, legal tender must be accepted. But the officer ignores this completely and shifts focus to suspicion. Not evidence, not facts, just suspicion. And that's dangerous, because policing based on assumptions instead of law opens the door to abuse. The auditor stays calm, keeps explaining, keeps offering payment. Meanwhile, the officer keeps escalating. And you can see it now. This isn't about resolving anything. This is heading straight toward...
To state what type of coin that Tesco accepts or not.
It's my job to make sure that you don't go past the point of payment without making
Well,
payment.
I haven't driven off, have I? I've got every intention of paying with this coin.
No.
If I had no intention, if I was trying to do something dishonest, I'd driven off, wouldn't I? But the fact is, I've waited here for you to come and I've discussed it with you. I've tried to explain it, being very civil, and be rude, have I? In any way, I've got no disrespect for the police whatsoever. Might go downhill a bit if you arrest me unlawfully.
Okay.
I just think, please, just check that it's a lawful arrest. I don't think it is.
I believe it is.
And the whole point of cash and legal tender is that you cannot be successfully prosecuted for non-payment if you've offered legal tender. So if I had Scottish notes, right, now they're not legal tender in the UK, they're not legal tender full stop, but Tesco's actually accept.
Guys, this is where everything falls apart. The officer makes the call arrest. Not because a crime happened, but because he thinks one might happen. Let that sink in. That's not law, that's speculation. The man is taken into custody over a payment dispute he tried repeatedly to settle legally. And here's the twist. He fights back. This doesn't end at the station. It goes to court. And the result? A $5,000 payout. That's not small. That's the system admitting failure. You don't pay that kind of money unless something went seriously wrong. This entire case is a wake-up call. When officers ignore the law they're sworn to enforce, the consequences hit hard. And in this case, accountability won. So remember, know your rights, stand your ground, and never let authority override the law.
An invitation to take the fuel, and I've taken the fuel, and now I've got a debt and I'm offering to pay the debt in legal tender. Now in the store it's different because I haven't taken the food, have I? In fact, if I'd have eaten the food, I'd be obligated to pay for it, and then it'd be the same scenario, just the same as if you went into a restaurant and had a meal, you know, and then you have to pay afterwards, and you offered to pay in that. Right, they can't lawfully have you prosecuted for failure to pay if you've offered a reasonable means of payment and they've refused to accept it.
Yeah, but you've refused to identify yourself to this person.
Well, I don't need to, do I?
I'm now starting to view your actions as being dishonest.
How have I been dishonest?
I suspect an offence is going to
How have I been dishonest?
Because you're refusing to give your information to this gentleman, so that...
But he's not entitled to my information, is he?
He is.
Okay, if I told you what my...
Because you have a debt to settle up with him. So to go to the restaurant scenario, if you ate your meal and then said, oh, I've forgotten my wallet, I've got no means of paying.
Oh, no means of paying.
Yeah, okay. So at that point you're not being dishonest. At the point that you refuse to identify yourself, or you put Mickey Mouse care of Disney World on a piece of paper and say, here's my details, you're then becoming dishonest.
What about if, like, we went to the restaurant, we had a meal, right, and then I pulled out a £50 note and they said, look, we don't accept £50 notes. They can't make a decision about refusing to accept the £50 notes when you owe them money. They can only refuse to go through with the transaction in the first place. It's only because you've had the goods and you owe a debt that they can't refuse to accept the money. So these coins are made by the Royal Mint.
And they are legal tender.
And they are legal tender. So how can I be refusing to pay and being dishonest in any way when I'm offering to pay with a coin of the realm, a legal tender coin?
Because you've offered a form of payment that they are unable or unwilling to accept. Therefore, as I said, the onus is on you to find alternative means. You've failed to do that. And you are now proposing to leave here without actually giving any means of identification so they can arrange at a later date to make payment with you. So therefore, because of that, I suspect that you are about to commit an offence of making off without payment.
See, now I reckon that if you've offered to pay, and I've offered to pay lots of times, got it on video, and right, and they refuse to accept the payment, I can't see how that I've committed a crime, even if I don't pay.
To provide an alternative means of payment or come to an alternative agreement.
So what you're suggesting is that you're going to arrest me based on the opinion of a Tesco staff member, whereas another member of staff might have...
Based on my suspicion.
Suspicion.
I'm sure with the amount of time this gentleman has spent here, and the fact that other colleagues are aware of the fact that we have been here for half an hour?
Nah, 16 minutes.
I'm sure if he were able to take that coin, he would have done it by now, because he's got plenty of other things to do. You are costing them money by the fact that your car's sat here taking out these two lanes.
Well, I've offered to move it, but he said no.
If they could...
I offered to move it, but he said no.
But if they were willing to take this at any point, they would have done by now.
Now, don't you think, Ben, right, that the country's biggest retailer would have a simple, basic understanding of coins of the realm and the legal tender situation and what they can do and what they can't do?
Well, they clearly do by the fact that they are not obliged to take it just because it's legal tender.
Because he said so. But how do you know he's right? And how do you know that what he's saying is the opinion of Tesco's as a company as a whole?
It's not that he's right, it's that the Bank of England is right, and it's the Bank of England that states that the shopkeepers are not legally obliged to accept any royal tender.
Right, okay, I understand where you're coming from with that, but that's referring to buying something from a store, not for paying a debt.
Okay, it's still the same,
it's not.
Same situation.
No,
okay.
It's not.
That's fine.
It's actually on the Bank of England website what legal tender is.
Yeah, it is. As I said, I have no argument. Arresting you on suspicion of making off without payment, you do not have to say anything, but it may harm your defence if you do not mention when questioned something on which you later will rely on in court. Anything you do say may be within the evidence. Do you understand?
Yep.
Okay, so my intention at this time is to take you to Exeter Police Station, where you will put into custody. The reason for that is for the prompt and effective investigation of the offence and to confirm your identity and your name and address.
Well, it'll be unlawful arrest, won't it?
No, not at all.
Right, where do you want me to park
I
my car
have the
then?
suspicion that you're about to commit an offence.
Well, what offence am I committing?
I've told you, I think you're about to make off without payment, and if I don't arrest you, then you will make off without payment. So there's my grounds.
Well, I'm offering to make
Can you
payment.
come out of the car, please?
Yeah,
sir?
stop, no.
Okay.
There's no use to use violence, is there?
No, well, step out of the car.
Let me just get my affairs together, alright?
Okay. Do you want to provide your details, or are you going to go to custody?
Well, I'll my details for you.
Yeah, but do you want to provide them to this man here?
No, but you want me to fill out a legal document?
Yeah.
No, I'm not filling out a legal document.